We didn't do our typical behind the scenes, our BTS dialogue.
Well, I wanted to, but I want to save it for when everyone can hear it.
Save the good stuff. Welcome to Liberty Without Compromise. We are the only live, local, liberty-minded program right here in Kootenai County, where we continue to expose the political power players, politicians, social influencers, power-playing pastors, all those things. And we think every time we think we got to the end of that, there's another one. We're your hosts, Dan and Donna Wilson. I'm here to screen your questions and comments. You can get involved right there in the comment section on whichever platform you're joining us tonight. And if you're watching us live, be sure to share this stream right there to your page or profile. Anybody listening back on our podcast, make sure to catch us live every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. A reminder, opinions expressed are ours only, not necessarily that of our advertisers, sponsors, guests, or affiliates. We welcome you again here to Liberty Without Compromise. I'm Donna Wilson, right here with Dan. And on tonight's show, we'll be joined by Leo Hohmann, a veteran investigative reporter and author, where we discuss his latest reporting on what's unfolding in Minnesota and why the chaos surrounding immigration and immigration enforcement may be about far more than border security. We're going to talk surveillance, federal escalation, and how emotionally charged conflicts are being used to expand centralized power, often with support from people who would normally oppose that. We're also going to bring the conversation home. We're addressing the growing disconnect between public outrage and selective silence, why some leaders loudly claim to protect children in one context, but then remain silent or defensive in the face of documented abuse cover-ups involving Pastor Paul Van Noy there at Candlelight Christian Fellowship. We're also going to revisit information surrounding imported political corruption, including straw donation schemes tied to the Bob Norris administration, and why these practices have existed in this county since Norris first took office. Not just recently, since he very first took office. He's in his second term now. As always, this show is about truth, transparency, and accountability. So let's get started. Here's your host, Dan Wilson.
Happy Wednesday night. 55 is the episode number. Still can't believe we've done it at least 55 times. I don't know about you, but
probably more than 55.
Well, not including the campaign, but 55 since January of 2025.
Liberty Without Compromise official.
We're glad you joined us to discuss liberty and why it's important for you as an American citizen to grasp your liberty, which, as the founders truly believed, quoting John Locke, the laws of nature and nature is God, that all men are created equal and each man has the right to life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, and property. And I heard it. I heard some of you bitching last week. Oh, you're still talking about Paul Van Noy. Please stop talking about it. Go on to something else. Well, here's the deal. We're the ones that have been invested into all of this technology. We put the time in, and we're going to talk about whatever it is that we feel like we need to talk about at the moment that we need to talk about. And you are perfectly free and clear, if you don't like it, to go watch Netflix or Prime. I'm certain your time will be better spent binge watching one of your favorite episodes of Chips or whatever else, Golden Girls or
What about Landman?
Whatever it is.
Come on.
So, but no, sometimes we are dedicated because we have one day a week that we do these shows. And sometimes the precedence is that we have to talk about the things that matter the most. We're not going to talk as much about Paul Van Noy tonight. We are working on some very large stories that are currently in the works. But tonight we are going to take a step back, go back and talk about your liberty and what is going on at a national scale, why you should be concerned. We're going to bring on our special guest, Leo Hohmann, pretty soon, and he's going to give us his take on a recent article that he wrote about Minnesota. And you're going to want to watch this one if you really care about liberty. Now, you and I have had one hell of a weekend.
Yeah.
It's been very packed. So we did not come as prepared tonight as normal. I think we're going to do okay.
We're going to do okay.
But we just came back from an adventure down in the, as Bob Norris calls it, the big county south of Boise, the greater Los Angeles area. We had work down there.
I've got good news and I've got bad news. Right? Yeah, that's Bob Norris's famous line.
Loved the heat down there. It was in the 70s. Did a lot of walking, a lot of sun. Spent a lot of time on Long Beach. And Long Beach is a really nice area, I have to say. If you've never been to Long Beach, California, highly recommend. There's a lot to see down there. A lot of very interesting places that I went to. Had a great time. You and I were able to get a couple good meals in at a couple fine establishments. But some of the things that I was working on while you were working on your project, that's why we went down there for one of your commercials, was Tam's Burgers. Now, Tam's Burgers is a restaurant chain in the greater Los Angeles area. And, you know, we brought this up during the campaign. Many of you have heard me talk about this, but we are investigating even greater in detail who exactly Tam's Burger is. Now, I don't know if you have that photo. Bob Norris, back in his first run for sheriff, 2019, received large donations from Los Angeles area hamburger chain Tam's Hamburgers.
I don't know if I got the photo your recent one.
Yeah.
I don't know. Did you send it to me?
Well, no, I thought you said you had
some behind the scenes stuff. I never had it.
Well, as I'm looking at this, so Bob Norris got quite a bit of money from this little hamburger chain. Now, Captain Mike Bauer back in 2019, 2020 sounded the alarm, told the Secretary of State and local clerk that, hey, Norris is getting campaign funds from this little hamburger outlet in Los Angeles that is known for laundering money to politicians. And specifically, the owner, Chris Vovos, was a former special deputy, kind of like Bruce Matari, County Commissioner Bruce Matari is. He received this very special commission. And Chris Vovos, the owner of these restaurants, was given a badge, a gun, and a county take-home car. Big supporter of Baca, Sheriff Baca, and Under Sheriff Tanaka. A lot of special, favors done back and forth. Bob Norris was their wrangler. Bob Norris runs for sheriff all the way thousands of miles up into Kootenai County, Idaho, and Tam's Burgers gives thousands of dollars to Bob Norris's campaign. So Chris Vovos at Tam's. And, the Captain Bauer was right. January of 2024, Los Angeles Times put out a article on Tam's Burgers, who is using their managers as straw men to launder campaign money to, the local sheriff, Villanueva. Villanueva pled guilty to 2 misdemeanors and was fined thousands of dollars. The corruption up here in Kootenai County has been a constant since Bob Norris came here. I'm not going to ever let this one go. It's no coincidence that Bob Norris was getting maximum donations from this little tiny hamburger place.
There you are.
Down out of Los Angeles, the greater Los Angeles area, donating maximum donations to this little guy running for sheriff all the way up in North Idaho. Bob Norris is a corrupt individual. He is the sheriff of Kootenai County, and we're digging deeper into what his ties were with Tam's and Vovos. And we're going to be bringing this to you in short order, but I don't want you guys to forget, go to my X account. You'll see that today I posted a repost of my original story, and you can link to the Los Angeles Times there and read for yourself.
And I put the link to the Los Angeles Times article up there in the corner on that QR code so you guys can access it that way.
This is the corrupt man that the Kootenai County Republican Central Committee got behind not one time, but twice. And this fraud was exposed to them before the November 24 election. I just want to keep reminding you again of what the Republican Central Committee, what their true values are. We're going to talk much more tonight about what they say versus what they do. They're a brood of vipers, a bunch of hypocrites, and we're not going to let this one go.
I'm going to throw a question at you that you're not prepared for because we've had a couple listeners bring this up. But right before that, I want to remind you that if you want a little more anonymity or you prefer to text or leave us a voicemail, you can do that at 208-366-4671. It's 208-366-4671. That number is open at all times, but we're checking it live during the show, so you can do that or leave questions and comments right there in the comment section. Since you were speaking of the KCRCC and they're changing tune, we had somebody ask today what you think about Matt Gaetz being at the Lincoln Day dinner.
What do I think about him being at the Lincoln Day dinner? I mean, I don't know. He's never been convicted of a crime yet. I know there's been the allegations of him having sex with minor girls. I don't know enough about it. I do know that there have been attempts to extort him through foreign governments. If you listen to, I believe it was a couple weeks ago, he was on Tucker Carlson and laid out the evidence. I think that had there been a crime, had he done something that was illegal, my guess is that he probably would have been charged by now, especially under Biden. But I guess we will see. I think the KCRCC probably, I don't know, they think he's a good speaker. I mean, I really don't know what else to say on it.
Like a lot of guys, gifted speaker. So because there have been other comments to this effect where people are reading what's out there and are calling for KCRCC to pull him out of that lineup, which they're clearly not going to do. So if your belief is that he should be pulled out, I guess let us know more of what your thoughts are. Dan shared his, but let us know that there in the comment section, or you can text or leave a voicemail.
I know that he has not, to the best of my knowledge, ever claimed that he molested his next door neighbor's daughter.
No documentation of that.
Yeah.
So actually, that was where I wanted to lead with that, because some would say, why are you giving that guy a pass? And
I'm not giving anybody a pass. I don't know enough about it.
Why answer that way as opposed to with what we've exposed about Paul Van Noy and taking such
because Paul is here
strong
local.
Stance.
Paul is here local. We know of him locally. And we have talked specifically to those that have brought forth the evidence. I have not seen any evidence on the Matt Gaetz, so I can't speak to it. He could be. He may be guilty. He may not be. I don't know. I guess apparently the KCRCC had no problems in rolling that dice. We'll see by the attendance whether or not it was a good gamble or not. But Paul Van Noy, we do know because he is local here to the community. He has his tentacles everywhere, and we have him admitting to many things.
He says this.
Teenager, a stupid kid. Hey, come over. I want to see your thing. Let me see it. Nobody knows that I molested my next door neighbor's daughter. Truly. I was a teenager. I was a stupid kid. Hey, come over. I want to see your thing. Let me see it.
But I guess the KCRCC probably would have no problems having Paul Van Noy right now come and speak or give the invocation or
somebody commented that Paul Van Noy will be in attendance. I don't know whether or not that's true, but that's the way we're going.
I mean, the last I heard that he and Dan Gookin, Candlelight Crowd, is at odds with the Republican Central Committee because, they went against the Central Committee's recommendation. And they said, we're not going to vote for Debbie. We're going to vote for Dan Gookin. So who knows?
Yeah.
But I do know that there are, while we have this subject before us, so much hypocrisy with the KCRCC. Two of my favorite harpies, if you don't know what harpy is, HARPIES, harpies, plural, or harpy, singular, it doesn't matter. Look it up. This describes these two women that we're going to talk about. They were a hemorrhoid to me during the campaign. They were disingenuous. We're going to show a collage of videos real quick. This was in short order. They continually came up and asked me the same questions about library books and drag shows in Coeur d'Alene. And I answered them clearly the very first night that I had my kickoff campaign rally. Terry and Nina's, who we're going to talk about, these are the harpies. You'll hear her say that I answered her question, and yet there's several more events where we're going to listen to their continual pushing me on what my belief was on drag shows and porn in the library. And you're also going to see them and their behaviors in their native environments. I wish I had a Mutual of Omaha type of voice, as well as Nina and her outrage before the legislative committee rather, down in Boise 2 years ago. So it's about a 6-minute video. We're going to talk about why they're so concerned about porn, what they call porn in the libraries and drag shows, but they haven't done a damn thing about Paul Van Noy to publicly make any statements about Paul stepping aside or being investigated. So without further ado, hopefully the audio is clear enough. Some of these recordings were a little bit difficult. We tried to boost them. Let's see what we can't hear. Here these ladies are. On the right side, the blonde is Terry Seymour on the Rating and Vetting Committee, and Nina Beasley, who was wrapped up at the town hall event.
And if you people don't, you will give me my time. You told Christians not to vote for me. You judged me by my faith. You will not.
No. Give him his time. Give him his time.
Thank you for the YouTube moment. That was Terry Seymour, who took away my right of speech right here, a member of this committee who refused to condemn race.
So, the porn in the library is going on in our very own libraries. And for the last couple of years, it is rampant, and Sheriff Norris spoke out against it. A lot of parents spoke out against it. Where do you stand with Pride in the Park and them sexually dancing in front of children?
I have a problem with
that. Happens.
I don't want any sexual thing in front of minors, period, and I really don't want it in public. I don't think it has any place there. We've been, with the generation I grew up, we were a lot more tight-laced, right? But our morals have started to slip. Well, they've massively slipped, as I talked about earlier. And here's the thing. We believe in the First Amendment, and we have to remember that in Coeur d'Alene, the city allows those permits for those people to hold those events. So that's where my stance is on that. I hope I answered your question.
You have. Thank
Great.
you.
One of your podcasts and spoken, you had discussed the recent sheriff's town hall, and you mentioned that the books in the library were sex education books, and those are sexually explicit, obscene.
I don't,
Okay,
did I say,
finish
did
my
I say
question.
sex? I'm just trying to make sure I
Yeah, you
heard
said
it.
I can play it for you if you'd like. But you said they were sex education books, so is that a lack of knowledge and understanding of what those books are, or is that what you actually call those?
I don't remember the exact quote, so I'll take it at your word.
It was sex
Okay,
education
so
books.
what's your question?
So do you think that the sexually explicit obscene books like Identity and Traffic and The Handmaid's Tale is sex education books, or do you think those are sexually explicit obscene books?
I would assume that if there's anything sexually explicit in them, then they're sexually explicit.
Okay.
So I'm not certain what the question is.
Well, because anybody that has been to those library board meetings, those are blatantly
Right.
sexually explicit material. It is not sex education
Right.
books, and to say that they were sex education books is very far from
You remember, because I'm going to go back and
Yeah, I
pay
can
attention
show
now.
it to you.
It'd be awesome.
I don't know how to save lives.
Cheers first.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Dan. Thanks for coming.
Yeah.
So you talked about our most vulnerable are our children.
Yeah.
They are.
Yeah.
So what are you gonna do if you become sheriff to address the drag queens in the park exposing themselves and dancing
Yeah.
provocatively in front of our small children and the porn in the libraries?
Yeah. Well, let's take it first with the drag queen parade. Or whatever, through the park. Number one, if they are committing a crime, then obviously they get
Do
prosecuted
you
for it.
think they've committed a crime?
Do I think? I've not personally witnessed the event that you're speaking of, so I can't speak on it. Well, I absolutely have heard about it, and I've actually been, a fan of Summer Bushnell, and I've donated to her defense because, I assume that what she saw is truly something that was wrong. So, and then your question about the libraries.
Yeah.
What is a sheriff, other than if there truly is again a crime that's occurring, then we could charge people up. But outside of that, a sheriff does not have the free reign to just go in and grab books and decide what is or what isn't acceptable. I mean, after all, the state legislature is the one that makes the laws. And then we have library boards that decide what's going to be put into the library and what's going to be accessible to kids. And we have citizen activists. Now I can tell you, the father of 5, who also served on boards like Life Services, I don't want my children subjected to any of this kind of indecent, abhorrent kind of nonsense that we're seeing children be able to access today. So just to be clear, because this happens, Terry, every single time you come to one of my events, and Nina, the same thing, you guys are like absolutely going to make certain you got a gotcha moment by me saying that somehow I don't want, that I'm worried that people can't access the porn and that children should be actually exposed to it, and that's not the case. I don't want children exposed to it, but again, the sheriff doesn't have, do you want the sheriff just arbitrarily going in and deciding what is and what isn't a crime?
No.
Okay. So, I mean, to me, it's politicking, you're grandstanding, but I would be, we have enough experts in this field between our reps and our library boards and our citizen activists that the sheriff needs to be focused on bigger things. So, that's what my answer is.
Percent oppose this bill. We have worked for 2 years in our community library network. We have shown them sexually explicit material meeting for 2 years, and they have done nothing. Everything in this bill, we already have policies. We already have all these things. And guess what? It hasn't removed books. But you know, what do you think about Chairman Yamamoto? What do you think about flogging? Because you know what? $10,000 isn't enough. And I think the Savior Jesus Christ said it's better that a millstone should be wrapped around someone's neck and cast into the sea for offending children. And you know what? You all are supposed to be lawmakers. Why don't you pray to Jesus Christ, who's the lawgiver? Because I can tell you what, he doesn't want these on our shelves.
Point of order.
And you made a big mistake today.
Okay.
Well,
139, and you arranged it before this meeting.
Order.
There's emails. It's all
Here
over.
comes the trooper to pull her out.
what she's, you know what? I am not upset with you. You, and I see that, and I let you say, now you've had your piece, and now you need to stop. Thank you.
Such passion from Nina Beasley, the former volunteer coordinator. I don't know if she still is. She kind of got tied into the town hall event.
Yeah.
I heard that she was pissed off with Dave Riley, Dan Bell, and decided she wasn't going to volunteer anymore. Don't know if that's accurate. But such passion. I mean, how many events did you go to where these two harpies continually came up and asked the same freaking question over and over again?
I was going to
both
give
sitting on the vetting committee. By the way, just so all of you guys remember, those two harpies were part of the rating and vetting committee. Hence why Nina, the crazy one at the end, is the reason why I ran as an independent, because in the final vetting committee meeting that I was in, she and called me a liar.
Oh, and we recorded that.
Yeah, we do need to release that. Now, both these women claim that they are outraged by obscene books in the library. I never witnessed them. I'll take their word for it. They didn't want children to be exposed without, minors, without an adult that is a parent or guardian that allowed them, didn't want them to be able to access those books. And they were also equally upset about the drag show in Coeur d'Alene. Now, you heard me in one of those clips. This was early on in February 24. And I said that I had actually donated money to Summer Bushnell's defense because I had assumed that she was truthful. Since this time, I found out that Summer Bushnell is an outright liar. We have her deposition. We're going to be breaking out this deposition very shortly. We're going to show what happens when so-called conservatives that lack any kind of true values, that are ideologues, not principled, when they will lie to justify the ends, the means that justify the ends. We're going to talk about that because it cannot be tolerated. I don't know why anybody lets her anywhere near them. She is a proven liar in court. But back to Terry and Nina, those harpies. Where is your public outrage, KCRCC darlings? Where's your outrage about Paul Van Noy and everything that's going on at Candlelight for the past 8 weeks. I'd say that you guys are probably not really concerned about the children. You just want to make a big spectacle, because when the opportunity is there to actually, deal with something that's not just a book or a drag show, but people that are actually harmed, girls that were sexually assaulted in their bedroom, and her own father refused to turn it into law enforcement because of whatever bullshit reason he gave? Where's your outrage, Nina? I'd say you're a liar. I don't believe you. I think you're a disingenuous political hack. Same with Terry. Terry, we know about you. Where is the KCRCC in their leadership calling? I mean, we're going to talk about this here shortly, about the rule change that you guys wanted to make during your winter conference about who can or can't be a Republican based on what others' perception is bad behavior. Hell, if you were going to go off of that alone, you'd have to get rid of Dave Riley. You'd have to get rid of Brent Reagan. You'd have to get rid of several of those that are involved with the KCRCC. But now it's all politics to you guys. Republicans have to win at all costs. You don't really care. You just are giving your assignments, Nina, and your wild eyes, and you're lecturing the state legislators about, you better put a millstone around your neck. Well, Nina, where are you publicly when it comes to calling for Paul Van Noy to step down? You KCRCC people are one of the most pathetic groups I have ever witnessed. You're all talk, zero action. Not a damn one of you stands out and does the right thing. You just run your mouths, and people are not trusting you anymore. Absolutely blows me away.
Yeah, I mean, for them to show up at multiple events, for those of you who may have missed that or joined us midstream there, you had Terry Seymour and Nina Beasley, both KCRCC vetting committee members that were showing up repeatedly when Dan Wilson was doing open town hall events. They come to create chaos. And these are not principled people. They were coming on the heels of Sheriff Bob Norris doing a public relations stunt, in my opinion, by walking into the library, fluffing his feathers.
Oh, by the way, hold on. Dave Riley, behind the scenes, bragged about actually checking that book out, giving it to the female who we won't name right now, and then giving it to Bob. Yeah. And his whole camera going into library, folks, that was all staged, just so you know, to interrupt.
Yeah, it was a staged PR stunt. And so Terry Seymour and Nina Beasley were put out on assignment to say, now go in and create that diversion and disrupt every single live or open town hall that Dan Wilson does. And then they disrupt it, attempting to force him to answer this question repeatedly when he's saying, I don't want morally, I'm with you on principle, morally, that is the stance that I take. But you were drawing a clear line between what the sheriff has the power to do when you're legal operating authority under law and order, and going into libraries and arbitrarily removing books is actually not one of those things that should have been done. So that's where people, it's like we're forcing you to think instead of you just saying, well, I'm a conservative, so absolutely I'm going to march in and I'm going to take out books and I'm going to protect our kids from all of this. But yeah, that turned into a messy situation, because then you got Pride in the Park when you made a perfect point. It's like, no, I don't, from a moral standpoint, I don't. But the city of Coeur d'Alene is permitting these events, and that is what is allowing them to happen. So have they done something illegal? Is it then can the sheriff legally go in and say cease and desist? You cannot do this event because look at me and my big conservative community, and I'm going to prove to you all to get more votes that I'm going to put a stop to this event. And you're simply saying that is not within the sheriff's lawful right to even do that.
Yeah, not his jurisdiction.
And I will, the other thing that I'll say about that is, again, these are not principled people, because not only have they not come out and spoken out against Pastor Paul Van Noy, where there is clear evidence of cover up of abuse, clear evidence
Multiple.
of sexual abuse in his past that he is openly admitting to. And no, it is not a part of his testimony. Those words are, they're attempting to twist it. Not only has Terry Seymour specifically not spoken out against it, she has stood in solidarity and in support of Pastor Paul Van Noy. This is a woman who was pretending, I'm going to shake the foundation of Dan Wilson as he's presenting by trying to spin this to somehow you don't care. You don't care about our kids being
she's
exposed.
not principled. She works
No,
for
not at all.
Congressman Russ Fulcher.
Yeah.
She's about as dumb as a butter knife. She's really, look, folks, you guys had better start paying attention to who you're listening to and watching, because there's a difference between being a fanboy and just signing off at what the party does, who your leader is, versus those that say it's not convenient. However, the principles that I live by state that this is acceptable or this is not acceptable, and they don't change. And many of you are not principled in your beliefs. We keep calling it this same old stupid argument: Republican versus Democrat, conservative versus liberal. It's not even that anymore.
No. And this ties in perfectly to the conversation that we're going to have with Leo Hohmann, because this is what's going on locally, and it's the same thing. These are people who are fueled by emotion, arguments of emotion to whoever I will go to the death and die on the hill of this person that I support because of whatever the benefit is that I'm getting out of it. It has nothing to do with conservative politics or conservative versus liberal.
When people are so pissed off that I dare to continually harp on Bob Norris and the KCRCC, what they did during that town hall was a violation of the First Amendment and definitely the Fourth Amendment. They can't understand. I've been called a liberal. How dare you? You're a liberal. You're a rhino. You're a Marxist. All you lightweights, you guys don't even know what most of that means.
Clearly not. Clearly not.
You've been spewing your propaganda forever. I'm saying this again. Everybody matters or nobody matters. We either run by the rule of law and due process or we do not. Ed, that resolution that Harry Heath tried to get passed at the state GOP, we have this. We're going to talk about it right after our segment with Leo, if we have time, because I want people out there to listen to how insane. I mean, coming from Harry Heath, that's rich. This guy was a self-proclaimed federal fugitive for years. Smells to me like piss and pot. The guys, I can't be within 5 feet of him. He smells so bad. But he claims to be one of the great gatekeepers of liberty, and he's nothing more than a pot-smoking wannabe outlaw. So, yeah, Ed, we are going to talk about that. A couple days ago, I read a outstanding article by Leo Hohmann, and I wanted to bring him on to discuss it in greater detail. We talk about mostly things right here locally, but we also have to keep our eyes on things at the national level because they are in real time going to affect us. The question is with the information that we are given at the national level, how does it prepare us here at the local level? I still contend there's not much we can do, if anything, at the national level, very little at the state level, but we do have control over the county level, and the united people can do mighty great things for the cause of liberty. With that being said, we are going to bring in this pre-recorded interview with Leo. He's going to talk about his article, and I would implore of you guys to start following Leo, listen to what he has to say. Very thought-provoking if you care about liberty without compromise.
Leo Hohmann, a veteran investigative reporter and author whose book Stealth Invasion spent most of 2017 among Amazon's top 10 books on immigration. Leo has spent decades researching and reporting on education, immigration, crime, politics, and religion, with his work published across major national and international outlets, including Front Page Magazine, LifeSite News, Zero Hedge, WorldNet Daily, Technocracy News, and many others. He's been interviewed by some of the most recognizable voices in media, including Laura Ingraham, Larry Elder, George Norrie, and John B. Wells. and is known for his willingness to go where others won't, connecting dots that many prefer remain disconnected. Tonight, we're going to talk with Leo about his latest reporting, which argues that what we're seeing unfold in places like Minnesota isn't just about immigration enforcement. It's about escalation, surveillance, and the normalization of federal power, where emotionally charged conflicts are used to divide the public while expanding centralized authority behind the scenes. Leo raises serious questions about data-driven policing, ICE's partnership with Palantir, and whether Americans on both the left and right are being steered into supporting tactics that they would normally oppose. About power, precedent, and what happens when crisis, whether it's real or manufactured, is used to reshape a society. Please welcome Leo Hohmann.
Leo, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you for that great introduction. My pleasure to be with you guys.
You know, I've followed you for many years, and this is a great privilege to be able to talk with you tonight about really relevant topic that is taking place all over this country. I did not think 5 years ago when COVID began that we would be having this conversation as soon as we are, but yet here we are a few days ago on your Substack, and we're going to throw that QR code up here shortly for folks to be able to go find this latest article. But you brought up some outstanding, relevant, timely topics regarding Minnesota and what's going on there. So thank you so much again for joining us. Tell us what in the hell is going on in Minnesota article for those that have not yet read.
Yeah, I felt compelled to do a little digging and maybe drill down a little bit more on what's going on out there, because if you just look at the news, cable news, regular news, it's just, all about federal ICE agents coming in to enforce the law. The operation was precipitated by some uncovering of Somali daycare frauds, Somali refugees, which I reported and others reported more than 10 years ago, Dan, that the Somali refugees there, in fact, I wrote a book about largely about this topic, the refugee resettlement movement and operation and how it works. Well, a lot of these Somalis are not exactly, model citizens. They do tend to be involved in a lot of fraudulent cases full of cash being sent back to Somalia. We reported on all of that back when I was with WorldNet Daily, but it never got any traction in the mainstream media, Dan, and it really never got much traction even in the rest of the conservative media. And now suddenly some, young buck reporter who nobody's ever heard of by the name of Greg Shirley, I think was his name, gets sent in there and does a video that goes viral. And we're supposed to believe this was all organic. I believe it was planned. And that is the pretext now to launch a big, massive ICE federal investigation. And they arrive in numbers, okay? Hundreds and hundreds of ICE officers, heavily armed with lethal and non-lethal force. And I find that there's more going on there than just an immigration operation. I mean, I'm all for kicking out illegal immigrants. I really am. And it wouldn't be hard to find broadcasts of me saying that, writings of mine saying that. But what I was taken aback by was some of the videos that I saw coming out of Minnesota, where brutal tactics were being used, not on violent gang members, not on violent drug traffickers, not on, any of the 100,000 Chinese male national order during Joe Biden's administration, but on unarmed women, elderly people, being pulled out of their vehicles, having knocks on the door and being asked to show their papers. Even some citizens have been swept up and brutalized in this operation. It's real. So what I feel is going on here, if it was just about deporting illegal aliens, there's ways to do it. And I do point out some solutions in my article. People say, oh, you're just, a Trump hater, which is not true. I voted for the man. You know, you complain about all of this, but you don't offer any solutions. Yes, if you read the whole article, I actually do. Cut off all aid, number one, all welfare. And I mean all of it. You know, not just food stamps. We hear a lot about food stamps and daycare centers and whatnot, but cut off all federal assistance to illegals, even to the point of closing public schools to their children. If you would submit that the vast majority would be self-deporting without any ICE officers needed at all, but we could still use the ICE officers to round up the violent ones, okay? I think that is the key. Gang members, like I said, I have no problem them using very tough tactics against people like that to protect themselves. But the use of force, as you know from being in law enforcement, has to match the threat of physical violence.
Indeed. And
some of these people being pulled out of their cars, I mean, I've seen like middle-aged women, mothers, a disabled woman who appeared to be in her 30s or 40s with nobody else in the car. They're being treated like animals. And so they've gone too far. They've overplayed their hand. But I tend to think it may be by design. I think that the Trump administration would like to see this situation be stoked, maybe spread to other cities. And we can go into, why I believe that's the case if you want. But I think for your audience purpose, the main thing I see going on here is the normalization of armed federal agents in our cities, conditioning Americans to think that that's normal, and really paving the way for the next stage, which I think is going to be the military.
Yeah, I agree with that that trend that we're seeing. We saw this, last year when Trump started bringing in troops to like DC to clean things up, because Congress apparently has not the intestinal fortitude and secure the Capitol and secure DC. But yeah, we're seeing lawlessness on many fronts, and it's fascinating to me watching everything that took place during 2020 with the pure tyranny, the end run around the Bill of Rights, and yet people would cry, hey, look at the tyranny, look what's going on with the federal and local and state governments. And then January 6th came and people were arrested and due process was removed. And we heard for 4 years of Biden how dangerous federal agencies like the FBI are, and that they should be abolished, going after non-violent offenders, those that would speak out against their school boards or pray near abortion clinics. And now all of a sudden, we see these same people that are applauding the tactics that we are seeing by ICE. And I agree. If you are here illegally, you must go back, period. I also agree that if we are dealing with hardened criminals, those that have committed heinous violent crimes, that they must be dealt with accordingly. But where in the hell is local law enforcement? Why are they not partnering with ICE? And why are we seeing this this trend of what it seems to be ICE coming in and doing it alone?
Well, I think J.D. Vance gave us the answer to that question. He said in an interview a few days ago, I believe it was late last week, that federal agents operate with what he called absolute immunity, meaning that they operate outside the scope. He says, I don't believe any constitutional attorney would affirm this, but in his opinion, and apparently in the opinion of the administration, these federal agents operate outside the scope of U.S. law and the Constitution, meaning they have no accountability to any court or any higher authority. That's totally un-American, and by its very definition is the mark of dictatorship. So I don't know where J.D. Vance gets that from, but like I said, you'd be hard-pressed to find a constitutional attorney in this country who would agree with him that just because you put on a uniform under the banner of the federal government, that you somehow have the ability to use any tactics you want, whether legal or illegal, and you'd have nobody to answer to for it.
Yeah, we are supposed to be a nation of rule of law, due process. That is the very basis, the foundation of who we are as Americans. And what is fascinating to me is how many people are ideologues based off of what they feel rather than principled constitutionalists. And, it is very fascinating to me to see how many people call themselves conservatives, call themselves patriots, and they have zero understanding of the Bill of Rights and what the founders were hoping to accomplish when they penned not only the Declaration, but the Bill of Rights in the United States Constitution. And they seem to be we're on Club Trump right now. Whatever he says, we're all for.
Their loyalty is to a man and a party, I believe. It's not to the Constitution, which means they're fake patriots.
Yeah.
Just today it came out that ICE believes it has the right to enter private homes and ask for people's proof of citizenship without producing a search warrant or any judicial approval. Again, that's totally lawless, but because they somehow are federal, they think they're above the law. A state or local law enforcement officer wouldn't think of entering a private home for any reason without a search warrant, unless it was some kind of immediate physical emergency where they had to save somebody's life. So, it is really amazing the authority that they're claiming for themselves that is completely nowhere found in the U.S. Constitution. That tells you that this country is in a dangerous place right now, Dan, where people in positions of authority no longer look to the Constitution for boundaries. They feel that they are able to operate outside of any boundaries, and that can only go in a bad direction, I feel.
Yeah, I agree. And it's quite the dichotomy that we find ourselves in. Now, both Republicans and Democrats have for decades allowed this illegal immigration crisis to unfold. Donna and I, when I was running for sheriff, went down to southern Arizona and spent 14 hours on the unsecured border. We saw hundreds of military-aged males coming across the border without any border patrol, nobody to stop them, being supported by the NGOs. Millions upon millions. I've heard anywhere from 30 to 60 million, depending on who the source is. And yet we look at the numbers for 2025 of how many deportations that Trump has accomplished. They're really not that impressive, are they?
No, actually not. About 570,000, a little over 500,000 in 1 year's time. That is about the same as what we saw under previous administrations, Joe Biden, Barack Obama, George W. Bush. That is another reason why you just hit on right there, Dan. It's another reason why I just have to believe what we're seeing in Minnesota has to do with more than just cleaning up the immigration system, because we're just not seeing the numbers of deportations. And where are these 100,000, like I said, 100,000 Chinese men of military age who these would be the most dangerous elements that came across that border. Right. And yet we're seeing, roofers and carpenters being painters and women being rounded up. I mean, something is wrong with this picture.
Yeah, low-hanging fruit to be sure. Why the sudden surge? Nick Shirley, I think, as you talked about earlier, did his expose. I don't have any idea whether it was set up or not, or whether he got lucky on his investigations. But why send everybody in full hilt during this time? Why not strategize? Why not back off and go, okay, hey, we already know we're going to get a lot of blowback from especially Minneapolis. That has been the epicenter of destruction and lack of rule of law for the past 5 years, at least, during George Floyd, when they burned the cities down. So why did do you suppose, and again, I already know where you're going with this, but for conversation, why do you suppose that they decided that they had to ramp up and go into Minneapolis right now?
I think they knew Minneapolis was a hotbed, a ticking time bomb of sorts. It has been for a long time. And I think they wanted that. I think they wanted to come in with guns blazing, so to speak, with all of their armed paramilitary officers and stoke the already tense situation there. Why did they want to do that? I think here's what it's a theory. I can't prove it, of course, but I think it's an educated theory. President Trump, since he took office, has wanted to put troops in America's major cities. He's tried it in Los Angeles. He's tried it in Chicago. He's tried it in Washington, D.C. He talked about New York City. He talked about New Orleans. But every time he moves to do that, he gets sued and he loses in the courts. And the reason that is we have something called the Posse Comitatus Act, which was passed, way back in I believe it was the late 1800s.
After the Civil War.
That law forbids the president or Congress from using federal troops, U.S. military troops, to conduct domestic law enforcement. Now, there is one way to get around that. That is to invoke the Insurrection Act of 1807, I believe it is, an even older law that allows the president to declare sort of a state of emergency in a given area if he decides that there's an uprising against the United States government. So it's no accident that we've been hearing Trump for months now and stepping it up in recent weeks about the need to, I have the right to declare the Insurrection Act. Other presidents have done it, and I will do it if necessary in Minnesota. And so I think that they realize that the more they stoke this situation in Minnesota and perhaps get it to spread to some other cities, now they have what they can call an insurrection on their hands. They can declare the insurrection, invoke the Insurrection Act, and bring the military out into the streets of our cities.
So I've been for the past 2 years locally speaking out. Donna and I have been about the use of license plate recognition and that technology against citizens right here in our county. And of course, we've also brought up the fact that along with Motorola or Flock or whoever, that ultimately they will be integrating and in many cases are already working with Palantir. And we know that the Homeland Security, Department of Defense, just about all the major federal agencies have contracts with Palantir, which through its software Foundry and Gotham, it's pretty scary stuff. What do you see going on with that aspect of it with the surveillance state? And then, we've heard of the lawsuits coming from many cities where they're finding out that Homeland Security and their various agencies have hacked into or gone through the back door of these Flock cameras throughout the country to use for their purposes of tracking people unlawfully.
Yeah. Palantir has a $30 million contract with ICE. It has
Which seems like pennies.
It has almost $1 billion in total federal contracts.
Right.
We're talking about the Department of Defense, now called the Department of War, ICE, Homeland Security, the FBI, the IRS, I believe Health and Human Services. This is a technology gathering and analysis company. They don't just gather data on Americans, they analyze the data and they scoop it up from all sources, whether it be social media, your phone records, your bank records, the whole gamut, your health records, your criminal history. They have access to all of this, and they build a dossier on every American. This is their goal. And this contract they have with ICE is not unlike the contract they have with the Israeli Defense Force that using facial recognition and artificial intelligence, they are able to choose targets for law enforcement. Now, in Israel, they choose targets, kill targets for the Israeli Defense Force in Gaza, people that need to be, they say, killed, eliminated. The problem with this software is it has a 10% error rate, okay, and admitted by Palantir. Apparently, they're okay with killing, 10% innocent people in Gaza. But this same type of software is provided by Palantir to ICE. It literally builds a dossier on everybody. They're able to call it up within seconds with a map showing them where the person is that needs to be detained. And, it works wonderfully for them, but you do have to wonder, what about the 10% error rate? That might explain why they're pulling a lot of innocent people out of cars and knocking on doors and breaking down doors now and entering homes to bring out what are actually full American citizens, not illegal aliens.
Yeah, pretty scary. I mean, when you have a government that is getting as powerful as it is, not only from the federal government standpoint, but also from the state. And now we're seeing local with no checks and balances because the money flows down and local jurisdictions, sheriff's departments, police departments, they count on getting the Department of Justice to fund things like Kevlar vest, firearms, etc. Nobody seems to really want to hold the line, hold the different federal agencies accountable. Where in the hell are the sheriffs in all this saying, look, we have a hell of a job to do. We can accomplish it. It's going to be a lot of hard work, but we're going to do it, making certain that no American citizens have their civil rights violated.
Yeah, I think we're owed at least that much, right? I mean, we're citizens. We pay taxes. We've lived in this country our whole lives, many of us. We don't deserve to be brutalized by our own government. Our government works for us. At least that's what we were told. But it's starting to feel more and more, like we work for the government. And, we are their assets. We are their subjects. It's starting to give off those vibes when you see this type of activity in our streets. And I'm afraid that if we don't get a handle on this soon, it's only going to get worse, because there's nothing to embolden a tyrant than for him to believe that he's above the law and have no consequences. So I can only hope that this gets settled in the courts. But frankly, I'm worried that if a favorable court ruling is not forthcoming, that this administration, like the administration before it, will just ignore it. We saw that under Joe Biden, where if he got a Supreme Court decision he didn't like, he ignored it or found a way around it. And so far, we're seeing the same tendency from the Trump administration. This is a dangerous trend that we're on, Dan, where all of this power is being concentrated in one office, and Congress, as usual, is nowhere to be found. There's a few lone voices like Rand Paul, Thomas Massey, Marjorie Taylor Greene was a great congresswoman, but now we lost her. It's on a slippery slope. My friend John Whitehead came out with an article today. He is an attorney with the Rutherford Institute, been around for decades. I think he's in his mid-80s, and he's been a constitutional attorney and activist for 45, 50 years. He put out a blistering article today that I would recommend people to read about his concerns of what he sees going on in Minnesota and the country.
We'll definitely have to look at that. So tell us, you have put so much time and thought into this for many years. You've written books. Tell the listeners, those that are viewing, what they can be doing to be part of the solution rather than just sitting by the wayside and occasionally, tweeting or posting something online. What can they be doing to actively preserve their liberty?
Well, I would say contact your member of Congress if I thought that would do any good. But I honestly don't. 95% of the people we have in Congress in both parties are just up there for the wrong reasons. They don't care what the people think. They work for their donors and their donor base. They don't work for the voters. The First Amendment is also under attack, not just in America, but throughout the free world, the so-called free world. I don't think we can legitimately call it that anymore when you've got people in England being arrested and sentenced to, long prison terms for something they put on Facebook.
Yes.
I think they would like to do the same thing here if they could get away with it. And it is trending in that direction. There have been people arrested, believe it or not, in the United States for something they posted on Facebook. And it's not always as, I can understand if you're directly threatening to kill somebody or something like that. But it's not to that level. And people are having to watch what they're saying. Now, I am a big advocate of, if you are wanting to defend free speech and protect free speech, you need to practice free speech. Just like we say with the Second Amendment, the best way to defend your gun rights and the Second Amendment is to practice your right to bear arms. I'm always amazed at how few men you see out there carrying in states that even have constitutional carry now. You don't even have to go to the, sheriff's office or the probate judge's office and get a carry permit. I understood when some people didn't want to do that, get their thumbprint in there and their photograph made. Almost makes you feel like you're a criminal just to be able to get a permit to carry a firearm. Well, in like half of the states now, you don't even have to do that. And
Idaho is a constitutional carry state.
Yes. So is Georgia, where I live. So is Tennessee and all of the southeastern states. And yet you rarely, when you're out and about, I kind of pay attention to that now. You rarely in restaurants or anywhere see men in this country taking advantage of their constitutional rights. And it's the same thing with the First Amendment. People are afraid to speak out. I feel like as long as we are in fear to practice our rights under the Bill of Rights, we're in danger of losing them.
You're so right. And look, part of free speech, as you were alluding to, means that you have to protect the speech that you find abhorrent, that you don't like. You have to specifically protect that, because who is the great arbiters of what is acceptable speech and what isn't? I know when it comes to James Madison, he was pretty adamant that each man has the right to his own conscience and to be able to state by his own thoughts. It was his property. His thoughts are his property, life, liberty, property. And I find it chilling and absurd that you have a lieutenant governor down in Florida that recently was recorded saying that, he more or less doesn't believe the First Amendment is absolute. And in some cases, it has to be regulated through hate speech type of crimes. And
yes.
It's sickening to me. I agree with you. We are losing the republic because men do not understand or practice their rights, not privileges that the government gives us, but our actual rights that are supposed to be protected by the government. I wonder where it's going to end up here in the next couple of years.
That's a great question. I'm watching and I'm writing and I'll be covering it. That's all I can say. But on the same topic that you were just describing, there is a movement in some states to ban anti-Semitism. In other words, it would be illegal to say something that the authorities consider to be anti-Semitic. Now, anti-Semitism is horrible. We all know that. It's a form of what they call hate speech, right? Newsflash, this is America. We have the right to speak hatefully and even wrongfully as Americans. Does anyone need to agree with it? No. Is it unpopular? Yes. But in the marketplace of ideas, we've always believed as Americans that good and proper speech would win out in the marketplace over horrible, racist, or otherwise bad speech. But to ban it and make it illegal is only going to A, cause more of it, and B, it is going to backfire and cause more division. And when people cannot express themselves publicly, even if, as you say, it is unpopular as it can be, that is a very it is a way of people being able to get tension out. It's therapeutic in a way. When you bottle people up and tell them they cannot speak their minds, they cannot give their opinions unless their opinion is approved by the almighty state, what does that do? That's actually going to cause more violence. because now they feel oppressed, and instead of being able to get their speech out and in a therapeutic way, people will resort to violence. We've seen this throughout history, and I feel like that was one of the things that our founding fathers were very familiar with, and they knew that it would be unwise to try to regulate and control what comes out of people's minds and mouths. That's what you call authoritarianism, folks. That's not freedom. That's not America.
And it's not liberty without compromise, right? You compromise the minute that you let the government put any kind of governor on what you can or can't say. But Leo, we sure appreciate you taking the time to come and speak with us. Your article is outstanding. Donna has the QR code above for those of you that want to read this article. Also, subscribe and support Leo and his Substack. Leo, what other areas can people find you on social media? What are your handles?
I'm on Facebook on the Hohmann Report. If you look up the Hohmann Report, I'm on Telegram. I have a very active Telegram channel where I post other articles that I find interesting, not just ones written by myself. You can find me there at Leo Hohmann /author. Leo Hohmann author / journalist on Telegram. And Hohmann, by the way, you have it up there. It's spelled with 2 N's. And of course, I'm on X as well, at Leo Hohmann. But my big platform is Substack right now. That's where I'm posting 3 to 4 articles a week. And you can find me there at leohohmann.substack.com.
Leo, final words of encouragement or action for all of us out here.
Don't be discouraged. Realize that our battle ultimately is not against flesh and blood. There are spiritual battles going on in this country, and keep the faith.
Stay strong, courageous, my friend. Thank you so much for your outstanding work. We appreciate you, and we hope to have you back real soon.
I appreciate you as well. Good luck, and thanks for having me on.
God bless. I like Leo. Leo has a lot of wisdom. Some of you are maybe bristling at what he has to say. Men of liberty understand that you will get offended if you practice true liberty, because that means that others that don't align with your view may cause you grief. Now, remember, the founders were adamant that this republic is for a holy, moral, and righteous people. Why? Because for centuries, if not millennium, Christians understand through their faith in God that they are accountable, that there is a code and rules that you live by, treating others better than yourself. And they knew that Christians were more apt than not, if they were truly believers, to govern some of their behavior so as not to impose their behavior on others. And it's part of self-governance, folks. Now, there are people in the community that I absolutely cannot stand. One of them is Dave Riley. Dave Riley is somebody that I listen to him, and every once in a while he says something that is actually pretty accurate, but most of the time it's just bullshit and shock jock value stuff. I mean, he could be somebody that actually people listen to locally if he didn't say all the other outlandish, childish things that he says. You know, kind of like railing against pedophiles and human trafficking, and he hates Mossad and the Jews and all that stuff. And yet he also vehemently supports Bob Norris for sheriff. When the KCRCC came out and gave their endorsement, he says, I fully support all of these candidates.
Yeah, it's the inconsistencies.
Yeah, so he's a hack. He's a shock jock. But he has the right to be an asshole. He has the right to be stupid in what he says. No different than others in this community. Many probably think that we're in this category, but we all have the right to say what we want. We should be tempering it, but there should be zero restrictions on what people can say. Obviously, if you make a direct threat to somebody,
well, there's consequences. Here's what Ed says. Do people to whom the hate speech is directed have the right to punch out the individual? Because that is what's going to happen more and more.
Well, I'd be curious a little more this conversation because that's kind of a loaded one, Ed. That's what's going to happen.
Might
more,
be a little tongue in cheek.
Yeah.
If people, rather than creating more laws, rules, and restrictions, and the government getting in the middle of it, if people have bad behavior and it's unacceptable in a society, it's like maybe you should let neighbors who are fighting over lawnmower clippings duke it out, kind of like the old days.
I agree with that. I mean, everything within certain parameters,
right?
With common sense. I think that far too often, I've said this for years, far too often, our society today believes that law enforcement is the end all for everybody.
Yeah.
That they're the great arbiters of everything. And I can tell you in 12 years how many bullshit calls I went to. People doing stupid things. It's like, really? You're calling us for this? Handle it like real men. So, Ed, I mean, I get it with you. Sometimes some things deserve a good mutual combat. But obviously, we don't want to promote lawlessness. We don't want to promote assaults on people that, that go overboard, that aren't lawful. Yeah. But good conversations.
Okay, Chad Dixon, thanks for joining us on Facebook. What's crazy to me is that men in this country nowadays think that our founding fathers would be all right with giving up our liberties and freedoms for a bunch of billionaires, the exact same kind of men whom our founding fathers wrote the Constitution to protect us all from. It's boggling his mind, to be honest.
That's a great point. I, unfortunately, for many years was in the camp of, well, the billionaires are good guys. They're just the Democrats and the liberals. This is the old Dan Wilson. Liberals and Democrats, like to attack them because they're Marxists and they just want their money. Now, let's face it. There are an increasing number of billionaires that are profiting off of the backs of we the people through legislation at the federal level and state level. They get all sorts of perks. And look at J.D. Vance. I mean, J.D. Vance is surrounded by billionaires that I want nothing to do with. Peter Thiel, Alex Carper from Carp from Palantir. I'm not a Jeff Bezos fan. Apparently, you can be billionaires and suppress the Epstein files. I mean, here's another one I want to throw out this again. All of you jackasses out there that are outraged that the Epstein files have not been released, the names have not been named. Your president, the one that promised you and then gaslit you later on and said, well, why are you guys still talking about that? Stupid. Yet you don't care about what's going on in your own backyard. If you are publicly calling for the release of Epstein's files and are silent on the candlelight and things going on at the altar church, I'm not going to take you serious at all. You're just nothing but a mouth breather that likes to be a keyboard warrior.
Sarah Martin joining us on Facebook tonight. She had commented a bit earlier, some in this similar vein. So I think this is a good thing to respond to. She says, people readily defend their own freedoms while ignoring those denied to others. Immigration policy can be debated, but human dignity should not. Yet the current ICE discussion has become mired in politics while a clear moral line is being crossed.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we are in one hell of a tight spot in this because think about the impossibility. Let's say that you are a Homeland Security agent. You really want to do your job well. I can empathize with these guys. Leadership is the tools to go after things, but you're not getting support like you need nationally. At the end, the guys that are paying the price are the agents in the field. But you're right. When you flood this country with tens of millions of people that did not come here correctly, and let's be very clear about this. This happened under Republicans. It happened under Democrats. They all hate you guys by allowing the flood of illegal immigrants into this country to drive down wages, to ramp up the cost of social programs, to get more voters, to disrupt our culture. I'll debate it all day long with people. We were down there. We saw firsthand exactly what it's like. And the most horrendous thing that I want you guys to think about, those of you who are 100% anti illegal invaders. How many tens of thousands, millions of women and children that have been sold into slavery in the United States by the cartel? Slave labor and sex labor.
Susie.
So it's a hell of a thing to have to deal with, and there isn't going to be one way that you're going to be able to go in and fix this mess without breaking a few eggs. I agree, though. The emphasis should always be on human dignity, and especially with women and children, treating them far different than you would a career-hardened violent offender.
Suzanne's joining us on YouTube, and she says, we can't stop talking about this candlelight mess, because I think she's getting some pushback and how often we're talking about Paul Van Noy and candlelight, something we've been covering for well over a month and a half now, probably closing in on the 2 month mark while he's on vacation in Maui. But she says, we can't stop talking about this candlelight mess until we see a perpetrator walk. Well, that's...
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Let's point out again, only one pastor that I have heard to date has publicly made a statement about the ministerial association. The rest of the cowards, and I'm going to call you all cowards because let me be very clear. I'm talking about just Protestants right now because I don't know how the Catholic Church works. Protestants, all of you non-denominational churches, you Baptists, you all claim the same Christ. You all claim the same New Testament. You all claim the same prophets. You have the letters from Paul. You know what's right and what's wrong. How dare you say, well, Paul's not in the same association that I am, or I'm not really involved with him, because the last I checked with Scripture, you have full authority, because we're all, no matter your denomination, we're all supposed to be followers of Jesus Christ. I see nothing but cowardice. And I think cowardice also leads to self-loathing. You are self-loathing because you understand that you're cowards. You'll do nothing to call out what you know to be right. Julie Roys, like her or hate her, has done more with her team to expose sexual abuse that is rampant in America than just about anybody else I know. Sean Ryan just had a guest on talking about a camp back east, and right now the names should be right on top of my head. I've been following this for years. Sex abuse inside Protestant churches. I'm going to leave the Catholics alone because we all know about what's happened with the Catholic churches for decades. The Protestants are equally, if not worse. I'm going to say that again. Equally, if not worse. There's a pastor in Boise right now that has been caught with all sorts of child porn. So if you guys aren't outraged about this locally, you guys are all a bunch of freaking lying hypocrites. But for the pastors that won't speak out, and I'm going to start naming the names. I've heard nothing from Jim Putman. I've heard nothing from Bob Davis from North Country Chapel. I've heard nothing from Pace Hartfeld from one church. They're building that big, massive church there on Prairie. Where's the leadership, Pace? I mean, you of all people should know better. You came from Ed Young's church down in Texas. You know how these things work. Where is your courage? You know what? There's nothing prohibiting any of you guys from coming out and even coming on this show and making a public statement. You don't have to agree with everything that I have said, but where is the accountability? And for those of you that don't want to hear it anymore, then tune out. I'm certain there's reruns of Landman and all the other exciting Paramount shows on TV. Go for it. Be my guest.
The reasoning that's come back from some of these pastors is, look, they want to wash their hands of it because they'll say we were either mistakenly on a list of a ministerial association because maybe they were slated to pray before city council and it was on ministerial association letterhead, but we have nothing to do with that. So leave our name out of it.
So the spirit doesn't work in
That's
them?
what
The spirit doesn't work in any of you guys?
I would love to hear the perspective. I mean, how many churches did we ran the numbers, and how many churches do we have just within Kootenai County? And maybe not every denomination. I think we ran numbers on those that are non-denominational, and there's 90 some churches in Kootenai County, and new ones going up on the corner what seems like every day. I would love to have any one of you guys come on the program and make a case for why this isn't your problem, or why making some kind of a statement as to why you shouldn't be one to step up and hold Paul Van Noy accountable.
Chris Antone from Athol Baptist, man.
Otherwise, it comes across as, well, I'm not going to do it because guess what? It's bad for business. I mean, to me, that ends up being the bottom line. It's bad for my business, so leave me out of it.
Agreed.
All right. There's a couple of comments here I want to wrap together, so I'm going to put them up back to back. Joining us on YouTube, Alpha, those ICE videos in Minnesota, the quote, police ICE folks with masks don't appear to be legitimate federal employees. They look and behave like paid goons with uniforms, labels, and toys. I wanted to combine this with this comment from Melita. She joins us on Facebook. ICE doesn't seem to be trained in any way with de-escalation techniques or protocol at all. And I know that you have some perspective on that and some of the way these things have been handled.
Well, look, videos are always tough unless you know the totality and see everything from the beginning to the end. I mean, it's dangerous to just jump and make assumptions or judgment calls. There are some that are so blatantly over the top that you can, but I haven't seen enough to know the techniques. So we don't know whether or not these guys are or are not trained. Remember, they spent, 4 years under the Biden administration. So who knows what kind of funding was cut. So, I mean, I don't know. I understand what you're saying. I find it interesting, the seemingly inconsistencies in uniforms. Some will say police, some will say other acronyms, some will say ICE. They should all be federal agents, but yeah, I mean, I get it. And I'm still a little torn on the whole mask thing. I mean, I understand from the perspective of the agent in the field and the doxing that goes on, but yet, here's the real thing. Law enforcement locally should be absolutely arm in arm assisting ICE. That is the proper way to do things. Where is law enforcement? I mean, when you had things like Katrina and some of the other major events that took place, from weather events, natural events, we had no problem sending officers from all over the country to help assist in maintaining the rule of law. If you have local jurisdictions, because of the politics, which police departments are notorious for, and they're not going to provide officers to assist ICE in their lawful detainment and deportation process, then start defunding them. I mean, who controls the freaking purse strings? The DOJ, I know this firsthand. When I was with Spokane PD, they were being investigated over the Otto Zem incident. That was a civil rights violation. DOJ came in. We had to have our Kevlar vest and our firearms and several other pieces of our duty equipment inventoried by agents, because those pieces of equipment were supplied to us by DOJ. If the DOJ is not getting cooperation for lawful enforcement activities like this, then start yanking the equipment. I mean, these grants come with strings attached. I just don't see federal law enforcement or the DOJ or the Trump administration using enough economic leverage to force compliance. And then what about elected sheriffs? I mean, at a minimum, elected sheriffs should be there with deputies providing the actual domestic law enforcement component and letting the ICE guys do what the ICE guys lawfully are given the authority to do. But the ICE guys aren't domestic law enforcement like you guys would think, and especially not in the specific states that they're operating. So that's my 2 cents.
Back in the Leo Hohmann interview just a bit ago, one of the things he talked about as an alternative to ICE agents going in and pulling people the way that they are was more talking about cutting off funding that the illegal people who are here illegally are getting in terms of public schooling and food stamps. So we had a comment from a parody Adam Jonas account on X.
Nice mustache.
Nicely done. Shutting down welfare is not going to happen in the next 5 years. This guy lives in La La Land. I'm assuming he's speaking.
Well, I mean,
for
that's his
Leo
opinion,
there.
and I understand why he might think that. It's definitely not something you start tonight and have a solution in the next day. But we're not seeing very much movement towards really taking, because it's always the heartstrings, right? I mean, there's a comment earlier that everybody gets due process in this country, and that is sort of kind of correct, but sort of kind of not correct. Now, Supreme Court recently, I think it was the Fifth Court of Appeals, actually had a ruling not too long ago saying, yeah, they have some of the rights if they're here illegally, but they don't have all of the guaranteed rights that Americans do, such as they don't have a right to own a firearm. That's a basic one. But if you're here illegally and they have evidence, it should be a quick hearing and you're gone. They should not have the same authority that somebody like me, a United States citizen, has. And that's just the way it goes. But at the same time, we always hear they pull our heartstrings. You can't cut off Medicaid because babies are going to starve. Babies won't get the health care that they need. And that's all, sad. But here's the deal. Just because somebody brought in a wrong by flooding this country, Republicans and Democrats both. I want to reiterate this. Republicans and Democrats both did this to us, the American people. You can't solve this in 4 years and not believe that it's also going to be a very messy process. Personal belief, at less than 500,000 a year deported, when we had at times 12 to 15,000 people per day coming across just certain crossings in Arizona. I mean, let's be real to my friends out there. Do you really think we're going to deport all of these people out of our country? Do you think it's going to happen in our lifetime? And I'm pretty much to the point now where I don't think that's going to happen. And we will see our culture drastically change within the next generation. That's what happens when you bring 40 or 30 or whatever the millions are into this country from a different culture, different beliefs, different backgrounds. That's what happens. So
this comment flows in. This is an earlier comment by Sarah Martin, one of those. She's joining us on Facebook tonight. You had responded to one of her more recent ones. This came earlier in the program and connects to what you were saying. The Constitution guarantees due process rights to all persons. This means non-citizens, including undocumented immigrants, are entitled to fair treatment under the law. Mm-hmm. Even the foreigner is a child of God. This is all about seeing how much force they can assert to suppress anyone who dissents to keep citizens silent.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with a lot of what you have to say, but also remember that, think about it from your own perspective. You have a job as a parent. I assume you're a parent. I'm just going to speculate. To take care of your child. You have X amount of income and resources to take care of your children or grandchildren. That is your responsibility. If all of a sudden your door springs wide open and you get 20 kids that come marching into your house, would you use the same argument if you have no more resources, no more ability yourself to take care of? Would you have the same argument to say, well, they're all God's children and I have to take care of them regardless? Now, I get it. We, especially with women and children, have to be very careful with them physically. Many of these kids have already experienced horrible, horrible things that none of us that probably can even imagine. But these great evils by, again, Republicans and Democrats, can I say this again? Republicans and Democrats have allowed this because of their greed. This is something that's going to be a very painful process in order to make right. But we didn't start this. We're only caught in the middle of it.
Andy Filler had a video that you're curious about Dan's response to it. Yeah, the answer is yes. Go ahead and send that to our DMs and I'll get that over to Dan and we'll see how he responds to that one. This one, having a little fun here. Though some of you who joined us last week may remember that several members of the GERL, I think it's GERL, several members of that family were harassing us throughout that broadcast, and that's a longer story. You can go back and get more to the backstory.
They're just trying to get their point across.
Looking for a little time in the limelight. But Mikey joining us on YouTube wondered if the GERL family is listening around their campfire tonight, Wednesday night family night. But so to that, I wondered if you had any update, anything you wanted to say to the GERL family, or we're just going to let that go.
I love Long Beach.
Yeah.
That's all I can say. Had a great time. Spent 8 hours in Long Beach.
Just flew home today.
So I understand why you guys like to live there, man. What a great city.
Great place. Anything, what else did we
there's somebody right here, Andy Filler, Yek Wo versus Hopkins and Wong versus Wing. Look, just to be clear, I'm not stating that people don't get a due process. I want to be very clear, but it's not drug out. It's not going to be a drug out issue like if you or I get charged with a crime and we have a right to a speedy trial or to be able to extend it as long as we need for our defense, etc. That's not the same rights that somebody here has. There is still a hearing, and I think that they should have done what they did during the Iraq and Afghanistan war, where they brought in judges from America to put together these ad hoc courts in order to process people quicker. And I'm curious as to why we're not doing that now. I mean, yes, I absolutely believe, because I have family members that are Hispanic that were born, they're legal United States citizens, but born in South America. And, I would hate for them to be snatched up because of their English being perceived as not being smooth enough or whatever the issue is. So yes, I'm absolutely for due process, but let's not make it a 10-year process or a 5-year process or even a year process. I mean, you either are here legally or you aren't. And once you have your hearing and it's established that you came here illegally.
You had one other thing you had put together tonight and with some pages of information.
Let's bring that up real quick. This one's for Ed. We said we were going to talk about it. This is, did you bring that slide up?
I think I did.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Because I'm blind, I'm going to have to bring my own personal slide up.
I'm going to be surprised.
Right. This was the Idaho Republican Party winter 2026 part of their proposed rules. I want to go into this a little more next week. I'm going to brush through it really fast because we're late on time. This was submitted by the self-described federal fugitive Hari Heath from down out of Benoit. That's a small little county just to the south of Kootenai. Let's read the first part of the reason, the whereas, as to why they wanted to bring up this rule called Rule 22, Party Integrity Enforcement. Whereas the Idaho Republican Party is a private membership association organized to promote the incorporation of expressed Republican political ideologies in the operation of government, and whereas some Republican public office holders, party officials, and precinct committeemen who have affiliated with the Idaho Republican Party have engaged in conduct substantially oppositional to the expressed principles and policies of the Idaho Republican Party platform, some of whose conduct is defamatory, substantially contrary to and destructive against achieving the express goals of the party, thereby exhibiting active party identity fraud. And whereas the Idaho Republican Party has the right and duty to discipline its memberships against injurious conduct and remove members who evidence conduct which is defamatory, destructive, and or substantially contrary to the express principles and policies of the Idaho Republican Party platform. Therefore, the following rule, Article 22, is proposed to rectify such misconduct by expulsion from the party or in the alternative censure. Okay. I'm not going to get into this week. We're going to hit on it really fast. It failed, and rightfully so. Hari, he should not be presenting anything to any Republicans for consideration. But this really would be a way for them. I think the ultimate suspension was going to be 5 years, where they could come in to anybody that they determined didn't toe the party line and say, you're not a Republican, you're banned for 5 years. They obviously couldn't prohibit them from voting Republican, but they couldn't run for office or be part of local Republican central committee parties, etc.
Which, I mean, essentially they already do. If you have somebody running for office, registered Republican, running as a Republican, and they already will come out in full force against somebody and start a campaign to say, well, you're not really a Republican, you're a rhino. So in essence, you could have somebody in office and they could arbitrarily decide.
Jeff Tyler admitted to me that Brent Reagan financially supports so much of the KCRCC and was allegedly, according to what I understood Jeff to say, was going to be providing legal representation for people part of the town hall event.
Yeah.
That, I mean, he's considered to be the godfather. I mean, how fitting. Wasn't his former family name, what was it?
Well, it was very Godfather-esque.
Yeah.
I don't remember what it was.
It's the ice maker.
Yeah. Oh, Zamboni.
There you go.
That's all I needed.
Great
Zamboni.
So the great Zamboni. And then when I asked him, I said, hey, Jeff, if Brent was no longer the chairman, would he be as generous? And I think Jeff pretty much said, no. Sorry, Jeff, if that's betraying it, but I'm beyond this bullshit with you guys. I'm like still beyond your bullshit. Brent Reagan would be one of those guys that would be the force behind expelling those that dare to challenge him. In fact, if you wanted to be really impressive to me, Hari and Brent and everybody else that supported this, expel Dave Riley. Dave Riley, while a Republican, went to run as a Democrat for governor. I mean, the hypocrisy in the KCRCC and this current GOP blows me away. And you're going to lose the party. You're going to lose the government because people are tired of the bullshit. They're tired of the double standards of the Terrys and the Ninas. I mean, it goes on and on and on, and there is nobody better, more self-righteous than a KCRCC individual. The same group that after listening to Angelo admit in his voluntary statements to police that the Asian massage parlor masseurs always try to touch his junk and it's gross, and he tells them not to do it, and there's girls as young as 14. Despite all of that, you hypocrites. I can't tell you how absolutely disgusted I am with you and your committees that refused to make a public statement saying this behavior does not reflect the local Republican Party, and we reject this kind of behavior. Now, you guys doubled down. You guys will forever be known to me as the lying, flying hypocrites, flaming dumpster fire hypocrites that you KCRCC people really are.
Think about it again. You got Terry Seymour and Nina Beasley going on a rampage about books in the library and the
drag show.
The drag show in the park. But again, neither of these people taking a stand against a guy in their own who was recommended for a seat was on their recommendation card, who is frequenting these massage parlors.
They're under active investigation by Coeur d'Alene police.
And he's going back and he's on record. It's body cam footage. None of this has been twisted. All we did was broadcast him in his own words. And he knew what they were doing. At bare minimum, he knew what they were doing because he had been offered those extra services where they were attempting to touch him in his private
she's really
parts.
good. He says, oh, but she's really good. She's really good. And
he continued to go back, which means you're spending money on, and that thereby supporting an industry and again, that to me falls under the category of human trafficking, because he right there declares, knowing that there's underage women working in those establishments.
And
So,
remember,
yeah.
Brent Reagan also would be a candidate, even though I think he probably was behind this rule with Hari, Mr. Piss and Pot himself. Specifically, the hypocrite that Brent Reagan is. Now, people have described Brent as being extremely wealthy. Multimillionaire. If you look in county records, they have a lot of property here in Kootenai County. Good on you. No envy there. But what I find absolutely hypocritical, like taking candy from babies hypocritical, is during COVID, when the government was giving out all of these loans to keep people in business, to keep their payroll floating, taking money from us and running up trillions of dollars in debt while they told you can't go to work, you're not essential. Brent Reagan took over $75,000. It's my understanding that during this time, he was actively producing parts, some component for a local Sandpoint company that manufactures ventilators that were, everybody was needing during COVID. So he had to be making speculation, had to be making money hand over fist. But somebody that's been described as a multi-millionaire took $75,000 to keep his payroll going while he wasn't shut down. Obviously, he was working. And then he took that money and they gave him, they basically, what's that called? All of a sudden it slips my mind. When they basically write it off and say, hey, well, they forgive the debt like they did for many of you. Look, commercial general contractor, we never stopped one day. We kept all of our people employed. We did not obey any of the government mandates to shut down. I was told by accountants and by bankers who wanted us to take hundreds of thousands of dollars of this payday protection payroll loans. And I said, absolutely not. Free men don't take money from the government. So Brent Reagan is a flying hypocrite, a flaming hypocrite when it comes to his small government ideas. Look, all these guys are big talkers until it hits them in the pocketbook, and then their greed just can't outrun them. So don't forget all the hypocrisy in this Kootenai County Republican Central Committee while they're trying to tell all of you how to live, where they're whipping you up, turning you against your neighbor because they don't believe exactly the way that you think they should believe, that all these warlords, these overseers in the KCRCC are absolutely doing things that are quite contrary to what free men actually do.
I'm going to put a photo up on the screen and have you respond to this. I'm real curious what you have to say about this one. You see that?
Oh,
yeah,
Mr. Jeff Newfield.
And then we're gonna wrap it up.
I'm honored that Jeff Newfield, associate pastor, youth pastor at Candlelight, Paul's one of his right-hand men, has recently begun to follow us on the Idaho Sheriff. I think that Jeff is probably getting a great education, getting alternative news. So I applaud him for getting outside of the Paul Van Noy echo chamber. And hopefully, Jeff, you're learning some things about, like allowing convicted sex offenders to attend your Turning Point USA events that you get photographed in side by side with them. The very things that we've been talking about going on at Candlelight for however long.
Which he's unabashedly not backing down on that one because those photos are still up on his profile.
Well, I think he said something that he supports Paul, too.
Yeah.
So he supports a man over what is right. Let it be known. Now, let's close off with a quote that I want to remind my friends out there. This is by a guy by the name of Phil Messina, martial arts guy. When young men seek to be like you, when lazy men resent you, when powerful men look over their shoulder at you, when cowardly men plot behind your back, when corrupt men wish you were gone and evil men want you dead, only then will you have done your share. What's going on? But I want you to stay strong and courageous, to continue to strive for doing what is right, being principled. Time to go back and read the founders, read the philosophers that they quoted. John Locke, Treatise of Two Governments. Plato and his Republic. Hard work, but you can't just follow the crowd. The hypocrisy is overwhelming. Don't be a part of the hypocrisy. Don't be a self-loather. Stand on your own. Do what's right, no matter the cost. Keep praying for my friend Jim. Tough times for him. Pray for those others that are suffering for health concerns and or the faith. We appreciate all of your encouragement and your comments. If you have a tip, turn it in to Donna. We'll take a look at it, see if it's something we can't investigate. Back to you, babe.
Yeah, that number you can call, it is open at all times, 208-366-4671. For a lot of you, texting is more your style, so you can text that number at any time, 208-366-4671. Or you can go ahead and leave a voicemail. That number, that's something we could even replay on the show if you have a tip or a comment, and we can bring that on up into the program. You can always contact us through our website as well. That is at libertywithoutcompromise.com. We want to thank you so much for joining us tonight on the Liberty Without Compromise live stream broadcast. You can visit our website to view past episodes and also exclusive reports and updates as to what's going on in our county. And for our podcast, you can listen and subscribe wherever you get your shows. So that's going to be on YouTube. You definitely want to subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's at the Idaho Sheriff. The handle there at the Idaho Sheriff. That is our channel. All of our live stream episodes are archived there on YouTube. Look for our pages on Facebook. It is at the Idaho Sheriff, and also the page Liberty Without Compromise. Subscribe to both of those.
Don't think that just because things are a little bit slower on the Van Noy, Tim Remington, John Padula front, that things aren't active behind the scenes. I have over 300 pages that I'm having to sift through right now to bring you some interesting information that you guys are going to want to not only see for yourself, but you want to listen about.
Yeah, if you tuned in tonight looking for more information on Paul Van Noy and Candlelight, because so much has come out and you think, why has there not been resolution in this, or why isn't there something specific that has just brought some type of resolution? The process takes time, and it is still things we're working on through records requests and speaking with so many witnesses.
By the way, Coeur d'Alene PD, you guys are past the time that you promised me some of the information that I paid several $100s for. So get on it. You guys owed me that information today. Heard nothing. Don't make me have to come and ask you where it's at. I know you watch because you've told us you're watching. So do the right thing. Get me my freaking information that I paid you guys several $100s for. Don't make me wait.
Yep, so all still active. Just stay with us. Subscribe to those pages, because as we do have breaking news, if it's between Wednesdays, you're going to see it there on our Facebook page, and then also on our X accounts. For Dan, it's at the Idaho Sheriff, and I am at Ride the Fader over on X. Those always are interesting threads and conversations. So until next Wednesday, you know how to get a hold of us.